Thank you, dear.
Go.
All right. Can I get Raza to close your laptop? Raza.
Close the lid.
All right. Everyone to the carpet. We're going to read a book. Yes.
Oh, is this read aloud?
It is a read aloud.
This is always where
Bella, to the carpet, please.
I love reading. I'm gonna leave it.
Thank you, everyone, for being so patient. All right, so today we're going to be reading The Romans, Life in Ancient Rome. So I want everyone to be paying very close attention because everyone will be doing a research project on ancient Rome.
Yes.
So you could use some of this information into your project. So just remember that, okay? We're also going to be learning a reading strategy called making connections. Does anyone know what making connection means? Sonia?
Like seeing if it has something in common.
Right.
You have that is like almost the same thing as something in the book or whatever.
Yeah, good.
You just
Yeah. Emma, do you know what Sonia just said? Do you know what making a connection means?
when you read about the people.
How about when reading? Do you know what that means? When you're making connection to what you're reading?
The person in the book has like the same thing maybe that you do.
Right. So we're going to be connecting what we know in our background knowledge to what we're reading in the book. So there are 3 types of connections. The first type is text to self, which is the easiest one. Text to self is when you're reading something and you can connect it to your real life situation. So let's say ancient Romans used to eat grapes all the time. I can connect to it because I love to eat grapes, right? Yes, Julian.
Well, actually, Jews would have grape juice.
Grape juice, yeah. Yes, Raza. What do you notice? Sorry, Raza's speaking.
I noticed in the background of the cover is that's the famous like horse.
Up here. It's called the Colosseum.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay, so the first type we said was text to self, right, Annalie? The second type is text to text. So when you're comparing text to text and making that connection, you're comparing what you're reading to something else that you've read before. So let's say in ancient Rome, there were 3 pigs that built 3 houses out of 3 different materials. So what can I compare it to? The 3 little pigs, 3 little Roman pigs. And then the last connection is text to world. Can anyone make an inference of what text to world is? Isaac?
Like where not that like you heard of, but you can make a connection with like everyday life and things that happen like all around.
Right. So let's say in ancient Rome there was a hurricane. We can connect it to our world because there was just a hurricane in North and South Carolina, right? North Carolina. And part of Virginia-ish. So what are the 3 different types of connections again, Coco?
Self-text, text-to-text, and text-to-world.
Excellent. All right, so remember that while we're reading the book. So I'm going to start reading, and I'm going to start making connections to the book. If you have any connections, keep it to yourself, and then we'll talk about them later on, okay? Yes, Kevin? You'll take notes with Miss Poole later, because you're going to be learning about note-taking later, okay? So, the Romans, life in ancient Rome. In 753 BC, the city of Rome was founded. The ancient Romans were clever people. They built great temples, arenas, and roads. They used the same alphabet and calendar we still use. The Romans also had a powerful army. Over time, they gained control over many peoples and places. By 27 BC, Rome ruled a great empire. It included land stretching over much of Europe, Asia, and Africa. About 1,500 years ago, the Roman Empire came to an end, but the city of Rome remains. It is now the capital of the modern country of Italy. Chapter 1, Everyday Life. Ancient Rome was a large city. 3 classes or groups of people made up its population. A few Romans were rich. They lived in mansions. I can connect to that because in the United States, we have 3 different classes. We have the lower class, the middle class, and the upper class. What's that mean? That means it's separated by how much money your families make. Wealthy Romans had many slaves to care for their homes. Some Romans had hundreds of slaves. Slaves are often captured in war. Most slaves had difficult lives. They had to do whatever their masters told them to do. Most Romans were commoners. They lived in small houses or apartments, but these homes were not plain. Paintings often decorated the walls. Mosaics covered the floors. These designs were made from colorful stones. The mosaic is at the entrance of a house in Pompeii, a city south of Rome. The writing warns visitors to beware of the dog. So that's the mosaic at the bottom. Romans loved to eat bread, eggs, grapes, figs, and cheese were common foods. I can relate to that because I love to eat bread, grapes, eggs, and cheese. Figs are okay. I'm not a big fan of fig Newtons.
I like fig bars.
Yeah. Fig bars. There you go. See, we all made a connection to that. Many Romans ate 3 meals a day, although the poor might skip breakfast. Dinner was a main meal. Roman farmers grew many different food crops. The most important were wheat, olives, and grapes. Romans also raised cattle, goats, and sheep for their meat, but only rich people could afford to eat meat. Wealthy Romans liked to attend feasts. After eating a lot of food, they sometimes made themselves throw up. With their stomachs empty, then they went back to the table for more. At feasts, Romans laid down on couches while they ate.
That's funny.
Throw up just to eat some more. Alright. Parents educated their children at home. Mothers taught daughters to cook and sew. Fathers taught sons to read and write. They also showed boys how to fight in war. They studied writing, reading, and math. Older students learned to make speeches. Romans expected their leaders to be good public speakers. Roman students worked hard. If they gave a wrong answer, their teachers were allowed to hit them. Roman children also had plenty of fun. They played games with balls, and they also loved board games. One game was like chess. Does anyone have a connection on this page? Kevin?
I would really like to play games also, and I really like chess.
Right, does anyone else like chess?
I play chess.
You play chess?
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Yeah, do you have another connection?
Shh.
Let's listen to Yair's connection.
But technically the same thing as Kevin's. I like chess, and I like playing.
You like playing a lot. That's Raza.
I like games, but not really chess so much, even though I do it. And my favorite game, I think,
Okay, ready to move on? In every household, men were in charge. Fathers had complete control over their families. They even had the right to kill a family member. All Romans enjoyed going to public bathhouses. There they visited with friends while lounging in steaming water. People entered a bath by plunging into a cold pool. Men and women did not bathe together. Some bathhouses had separate sections for men and women. Others had different times of days for men and women. So I can make a connection to that because, like in public areas like schools or the pool or the gym, men and women are separated in bathrooms. They can't shower together, they can't use the bathroom together. So it's just like in ancient Roman times. Romans didn't use soap. Instead, they rubbed oil on their skin. They then used a tool called a shrivel to scrape it off.
What?
Yeah. Most Romans went to bathhouses at least once a day. Only very wealthy people had a private bath at home. This bathhouse is still standing in Bath, England, almost 2,000 years after the Romans built it.
Rosa, I can't see it. Please sit down.
Oh, we don't
pee. Why is it green?
Because the water hasn't been changed out, there's probably like algae growing in it. That's why it's green. Floors in Roman bathhouses were very hot. People wore sandals to keep their feet from burning. Does anyone have a connection to that? Maybe going to the pool? Amen?
Well, when I went to the pool, and then when you touch concrete, your feet turn hot.
Yeah, your feet get really hot. All right, hands down. The weather in Rome was often warm. To stay cool, people dressed in tunics. Tunics looked like long t-shirts tied at the waist with a rope or belt. When Romans went outdoors, they put on sandals. Women wore stolas over their tunics. These were long dresses. Stolas had a colorful border around the neck. Rich women sometimes wore golden earrings, rings, and necklaces. For dressy occasions, men wore white togas. A toga was one big piece of wool. Men wrapped togas around their bodies. Togas were like business suits in ancient Rome. Girls wore white clothing until they were married. Many girls married at the age of 14.
What?
Yes, Raza.
I know that boy right there on my side.
Saladin.
That boy right there, I think I remember him from sitting on the couch with his dad on the last week.
Maybe. Yes, yeah.
So I have a connection for the page before that page.
Okay, what was your connection?
I've been to bathhouse in Israel.
Really? Was it like the ones in Rome?
I just know that it may have been part of Rome because I remember that Israel was once conquered by Rome.
So maybe the Romans built it in Israel?
But obviously it was conquered twice by Rome. Well,
Yes, but
I visited Pompeii and I had a tour of stuff like that.
was it cool? That's so awesome. All right.
People who didn't say
All right, let's move on. Ready? So at this point, if you have any other connections, you can raise your hand and we can talk about it, okay? Chapter 4. We skipped a few chapters. Roman ideas and inventions. The Roman Empire was large because of its army. Its army was the best in the world. The Roman army had more than 150,000 soldiers. The army took over foreign lands and made them part of the Roman Empire. As the empire spread, Roman ideas also spread. Leap year, which adds an extra day to the calendar every 4 years, was a Roman invention. In addition, English names for the 12 months are very similar to those used by the Romans. The first 3 months of the year were Januaris, Februaris, and Martius. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Soldiers in the Roman army served for 20 to 25 years. Yes, yes.
I also know that the English months, they also have language that are kind of like Latin, which are called Romance languages. There's Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, French, and Romanian. Romanian is the most Latin language.
That is very cool. Thank you for sharing. All right. Rome was a crowded city. Several Roman inventions made the people there more comfortable. The Romans built a great sewage system. It carried dirty, smelly waste out of the city. Plumbing was also a big concern. So the Romans built aqueducts. These structures carried water into Rome. The water ran through a channel in the aqueducts. The channel sloped downwards to keep the water flowing. A huge network of pipes then carried it into each building. It took 700 slaves to keep the plumbing system running. They worked hard to lay down new pipes and repair old ones. So this one down here says, the Pont du Gard aqueduct in France is 160 feet, or 49 meters, high. It is the tallest aqueduct the Romans built. When they weren't fighting, Roman soldiers helped build aqueducts and other structures. The Romans also invented a new form of government. For more than 500 years, Rome was a republic. In a republic, the people hold the power. Romans voted for representatives to govern them, but not everyone could vote. Women, poor men, and slaves had no say in choosing Rome's leaders. We can make sure. Yeah, what is it, Kevin?
Before 1925, 1920 or 1925, women and slaves and some poor people weren't allowed to vote.
Yeah, that is a great connection.
1925.
I think it's 1920 when women.
No, 1920 was when people weren't allowed to buy beer.
Yeah.
They weren't able to buy beer and like alcohol.
Yeah.
Do you know what that's called?
Illegal. Prohibition.
Prohibition. Yeah, it was illegal. All right. When Rome was a republic, a group called the Senate made many important decisions. Senators met in a building called the Curia. The Roman Senate usually had 300 members, but for a time, it had more than 900 members. Rome lives on. In 406, the Roman Empire came to an end. Foreigners invaded the city and took over. Ancient Rome civilization is gone, but we still studied its history, and many museums have Roman art. There you can see a beautiful Roman painting and statues. In the United States, some Roman ways live on. Many of our laws are based on Roman laws. The U.S. government is also similar to that of the Roman Republic. Like the Romans, we have part of the government called the Senate. So over here it says, one amazing piece of Roman art was a 30-foot high, or 10 meters, statue of the Emperor Constantine. Its huge head is on display in Rome. The Romans also passed on their language. It is called Latin. Very few people speak Latin now, but several modern languages are based off this language. They include Spanish, French, and Italian. Pig Latin. I don't think Pig Latin is part of Latin.
It's just probably just called
Yeah.
You know, Latin is kind of like the scientific language. Like, mostly everything has a scientific name, which is the scientific name would be in Latin. So in Latin,
It's scientific. All right. Last page. Many English words come from Latin. They are also written using an alphabet developed by Romans, so you can thank the Romans for the words and letters in this book. Where ancient Rome once stood, there is now a great modern city, Ryan. The new Rome is filled with tall buildings and highways, but the city also contains ruins, remains of old Roman roads and buildings. For modern Romans, these ruins are a constant reminder of the world of ancient Rome. Down here it says, modern Rome includes buildings from many different time periods. St. Peter's Basilica was finished in 1626. Yeah, it kind of does look like the capital, right? Modern Rome has a population of about 2,700,000 people. All right, so what are the 3 reading strategies we tried today, or the 1 reading strategy put into 3? Owen? Connections. Remember the 3 types of connections? Christopher?
I remember like this.
Do you remember two? Okay, what's the two you remember?
No, actually one. Text.
Text is text. Saladin, what's another one?
Text to world.
Text to world. Davis, what's the other one?
Text to self.
Text to self. So remember, we've got text to text, text to world, and text to self. So try those reading strategies next time you're reading a book and you want to better understand what you're reading. All right?
I can't remember all that. I need to know this.
Yes, you can. All right, let's head back to our seats.
Text to self. I couldn't remember army. Yeah, I couldn't remember the number of the army. What are you doing that like?
It's okay, we're going to do more research later.
It's 150,000.
Gonna keep going.